Good evening, everyone. I'm Stan Groff, and I'd like to spend the next few minutes with you discussing the wicked problem of alcohol-impaired or drunk driving and the DAISY device that I've invented to try to do something about that. We'll follow this agenda. We'll first see something about the unsolvable wicked problem of alcohol-impaired driving, my capstone project and prototype, attempts at other solutions to date, the DAISY device innovation itself, my business plan and budget, potential challenges and alternative strategies, implementation readiness, the grand challenge social impact, and benchmarks for those impacts. First, we'll take a look at the wicked problem itself.
Year-old daughter Carrie was killed by a drunk driver. She was thrown 125 feet and she was left in the road to die. The man who killed her was out on bail from a hit-and-run drunk driving crash. And I took that pain, rage, and grief and started the largest anti-drunk driving organization in the world. While everyone celebrates holidays like Mother's Day and Memorial Day, I celebrate my child's life and mourn my child's death. My memories of her bring both smiles and tears. I think of her often, but never more so than around this time of the year. Smiles when I think of my daughter Carrie on the phone with her friends, giving everyone advice, swimming with her friends in our backyard pool, and telling me how she was going to live with me forever because she had it made at home. Hundreds of thousands of people have lived as a result of her death. And who knew that her death would spark a movement? A revolution, really. Carrie has been gone for 37 years, and not a day goes by that I don't think of her.
Here we have another picture of Carrie Leitner. She died in 1980, and the gentleman on the right is a picture of my best boyhood friend, Jerome, who died shortly thereafter, but at an older age. He had developed quite a binge drinking issue, and one night he was crushed by a truck in his car, driving impaired. As well, I've had other relatives and friends who have been injured and in some cases killed in alcohol-impaired driving crashes as well. So this project is very personal to me. Nothing has worked to reduce the number of alcohol-related traffic deaths and injuries over the past 10 years. This chart from the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration shows that the number of deaths, that's the blue bars, from 2008 to 2017 has remained relatively fixed, and you'll notice that there's a slight uptick in the last several years. As well, the fatality rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled has remained relatively constant as well. So as the number of miles increases, the rate stays the same. So whatever is being done to prevent alcohol-impaired driving is static at this time. It's equivalent to weekly 737 crashes, week in, week out in perpetuity. So the grand challenge is close the health gap, and specifically the wicked problem is alcohol-impaired driving. Drunk driving has proved to be unsolvable, and a new innovation is needed. Here's a list of things that have and have not worked, some better than others. I've asterisked the two at the top that have been seemingly the most effective. In 2003, the upper limit has been reduced from 0.10 down to 0.08, which is a law change. And in 2003, roughly, Candy Lightner did invent or create Mothers Against Drunk Driving. That's an attack on the norms itself, and its slogan was "Friends don't let friends drive drunk." Interestingly, Sweden has dropped the blood alcohol content upper limit to 0.02, and they'll crush your car, by the way, if you get caught driving drunk. What already exists in the realm of my device are professional grade breathalyzers that law enforcement use, both in the field and in police stations. Those are hundreds of dollars for the portable field ones and thousands of dollars for the mass spec ones that they use back at their offices. The next is the commercial grade consumer breathalyzers. There's a bunch of different ones on the market, and Backtrack Corporation, which I'll talk about more in a minute, is the leading retailer of consumer breathalyzers. Ankle monitor blood alcohol concentration sensors such as SCRAM Systems Incorporated. The SCRAM stands for Secure Continuous Remote Alcohol Monitor, are used on persons who have already been convicted of drunk driving, and as a part of their probation or parole are monitored using these very expensive devices. And finally, there have been attempts at transdermal or through the skin consumer grade blood alcohol content sensors. As I mentioned, the Backtrack Skin is the one that is closest to what I have in mind. However, it's extremely expensive, uses remote technology like an app to read out, and has not yet made it to market. They're in beta testing now, and I don't expect it to be on the market for quite some time. Geiner Labs, whose president Andy Belt and I emailed one another back and forth, had developed what is called the wrist task, which they did not find particularly useful for their mission, and they spun it off to a new corporation called Smart Start Incorporated. And I personally spoke with Michael Moeller, who's in charge of this device at that company, and he said they've shelved it as well. So no transdermal BAC sensor is on the market at this time, and it's our chance to beat everyone to that market. So this is the innovative DAISY prototype, and the wireframe picture that you see here is the two-dimensional wireframe, and I'll be showing you a three-dimensional wireframe in a moment. It features on-screen readout in grams per deciliter. The theory is that if a green light pops up when you press the button, it means that you're between 0.00, no blood alcohol, and 0.03, so you're green and good to go. The yellow sensor that you see showing here indicates a 0.04 to 0.07, and that's a caution that you should be careful or not drive as well. And if the red light comes on, you're at 0.08 or above, and you could be dead, arrested, all kinds of negative consequences. This idea comes from a design thinking exercise early on in my career at USC. The idea is to subvert and interrupt the norms that authorize or allow, especially the target group from age 17 to 34, the right to get in their car and drive drunk. It uses new science. It's a top-of-mind reminder, even if it isn't activated, to not drink and drive. It's like a AA chip for alcoholics who carry those around in their pockets. It'll be classified as a Class 1 medical device by the FDA. We hope to market it at $19.95, and I have a patent pending on it. At the top you'll see the terms discreet, accurate, inexpensive, simple, and you're okay. You're okay meaning safe. Those 5 letters make up the acronym DAISY, and these are design criteria that must be met in order to make it effective in the marketplace, we believe. In order to scale this innovation, we need a business plan. And so I've started a new business called the Daisy D Corporation, the D standing for device. And what we need by way of operating structure for the company and the needed resources are to create a Florida-based social purpose B Corporation, which I've done. We need to attract federal grants, foundation funding, angel investors, or use my own personal funds for research and development and startup, $200,000 and $100,000 respectively. It will operate under the auspices of a board of directors. It will have a small staff. It will contract for manufacturing and shipping, engage in an information campaign, and impact the grand challenge by interrupting norms surrounding alcohol-impaired driving. This is the budget slide. The first year revenue amount to that $200,000 R&D grant. The first year may only end up being 90 days, which I will demonstrate later. In the second year, sales from, income from sales will net a 34% profit on those sales alone, much less the startup and volunteer attorney time. And in year 3, revenues are expected to be nearly $1.5 million from sales and represent a 40% profit after all costs. We will have to be doing something with those profit funds, because a B corporation needs to spread benefit around from the results of its economic activity, but it still it should be very healthy and sustainable as a result. Potential challenges and alternative strategies are that the device may or may not work. If that is the case, there is another transdermal strategy by Akamatsu and company, who have developed a smear substance that radiates those same colors. This work was done in Japan in 2015. The cost of production and shipping the cost of production and shipping may exceed our expectations. If that's the case, the competition and rebid hopefully will turn that around. The innovation could suffer low sales, and if that's the case, it's back to the drawing board. Redesign and improve the campaign are alternative strategies. And finally, competition could finally come to the market. And I borrowed something from the military, which is assess, adjust, and overcome if that's the case. Redouble our efforts. This project is implementation ready. The day 0 are already completed items. I've registered the Daisy D Corporation with Florida SunBiz, which is their Secretary of State, essentially. I've received a Federal Employee Identification, or EIN number, and an IRS registration. I've applied for a patent on the Daisy device itself. I've established a business bank account with my own funds and have begun the search for funders already. In the first 30 days, I intend to meet and expand the team in Los Angeles right after the first of the year. I'll meet with USC Viterbi School of Engineering personnel and secure with my team a Viterbi contract for sensor development within 90 days contractually. In the next 30 days, or within the 60 days, we need to develop a contractor network and establish the board of directors and meet. And finally, in the 90-day era, take delivery of the DAISY Center technology with specs and complete the contract with Viterbi, find office space near Parish of 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, furnish it, hire the first staff, and have held several board meetings by that time. The Grand Challenge social impact is to change norms around driving impaired, to reduce economic costs of alcohol impaired driving crashes, lessen one factor of alcohol use as a social determinant of health, and close the health and wellness gap between the poor and the rest of society. Some benchmarks for the product's impacts include sales locally, Manatee and Pinellas County, Florida statistics short term, and these are listed below, Florida statistics longer term, and eventually US statistics at scale. The number of alcohol impaired driving, and these statistics include the number of alcohol impaired driving crashes, the number of alcohol impaired driving deaths and injuries, the rate of deaths per 100 million miles traveled should be reduced, the number of drunk driving arrests should be